Welcome back to the IE427 garage, everybody. We're working on Jim's car today. We're working on getting the radiator pulled out of it because we're going to do a new upper and lower mount for the radiator from Breeze Automotive. And we're also going to do one of their fan shrouds. So come on back and I'll show you what we're up to. Alright, so what we got going here is we're in the process of draining the coolant. You can see I've got the bucket going, I've got the petcock on the radiator open, and I have already removed the cooling fan from the back of the radiator. The cooling fan was mounted with some brackets. Let's see if I can find them. I don't know if I threw them away already. I think I threw them away. Oh no, here they are. All right, here. And this is the way that they were mounted onto the radiator. So these came off of the ears on the cooling fan, and then some machine screws and nuts held them to the radiator. We are now going with a proper fan shroud. This one is from Breeze Automotive. Mark over there does these great fan shrouds that fit the Factory 5 radiator and radiator cooling fan. And so really all you have to do is bolt this thing up and you're raring to go. So I do have it marked. This is top, this is bottom. You know the top because the top has a smaller flange on it. It's not as tall. So this is not as tall as this flange down here. And it has two pre-punched holes in them. Those are going to be used to mount this to the radiator. And in our case, it's also going to be used to mount the radiator upper hinge assembly that we're putting on this car. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to continue working on that, and I will bring you back just as soon as I have something more to show you. Alright, at the front of the car, I have started to remove some of the aluminum, the nose aluminum inside to get the radiator loose. So I've got the two sides off, and over here, I don't know if you can see it, I've got a tie wrap basically holding the radiator around the petcock and around one of the tubes for the overriders in the front, or the quick jacks. And what that's doing, it's holding the radiator in place at the bottom. So the aluminum here is already loose. I've got it loose, and I'm going to pull that out next. I'm going to pull it out as one unit with the oil cooler so that I don't have to pull it off in multiple pieces. And the oil cooler lines are fake. Basically, it's just a line that goes into the fender well. So I pulled those off and I put them aside. I'm going to see if we can do something. We're still going to keep it non-functional, but I think we're going to do something that looks just a little bit more professional rather than just putting black tape on the ends of the tube. So we'll deal with that when the time comes. But right now I'm going to work on getting this piece out with the oil cooler attached, and then I will go up and pull the top bolts loose, and then I'll probably have to get some help to get the radiator out because I don't want to break any of the brackets on the top or the bottom or anything else. I want to try to save this radiator. I did find a potential problem at the top of the radiator. It's on the back side of the top passenger corner. There's a stain, a rust stain. Now, aluminum doesn't rust, but the water, if it's carrying any hard metals in it, it'll show signs of rust. But there's a stain on the back side of the radiator up there. So I think it might be worth it to take this to the radiator shop, have it pressure tested, and then confirm whether or not we have to have it repaired, replaced, or whether it's just fine. So I'll probably get the radiator out. I'll mock everything up, but I don't think I'm going to put any drilled holes in the top frame mount today, because if the radiator has to be replaced, then I'm going to be doing this twice. So there you go. All right, everybody, next day. Here is where we're at with the radiator. I pulled the radiator out, and I sent a text to Jim. I wanted to let him know that I found what could potentially be an issue with the radiator. What we have is we have a rust stain at the upper right, so the passenger side upper corner of the radiator. There's a rust stain, and an aluminum radiator doesn't rust. So the only thing that could be carrying that rust would be the water in the coolant. And it is suspiciously close to where the inlet is. So where the tube enters the radiator, it's right in that area. And we have a clamp. I'm going to see if I'll take you around to that side of the car. We have one of these clamps that I just think they're ugly, but a lot of guys swear by these type of clamps. So we have this clamp right here. And this clamp was in an orientation where this was facing down towards the radiator. It wasn't making contact, but my thought is that maybe at one point this hose wasn't tight enough. And so there was enough water or coolant leaking that it was getting onto the stud and then blowing towards the radiator. And that's where we got the rust from. But I can't see any rust on the clamp itself. Now, it's stainless steel. It's not going to rust. But, like I said, if the coolant or the water in the coolant is carrying the rust, it could stain the radiator. So, out of just a abundance of caution, I let Jim know that we probably just ought to have the radiator pressure tested. So he picked it up yesterday, and he's going to take that to one of the radiator shops here locally and see if they can pressurize it, dunk it in their tank to see if it indeed is leaking or whether it's holding pressure. If it's holding pressure, then we're good. I can continue installing the Breeze upper mount, the Breeze lower mount, the Breeze fan shroud, and then the Factory 5 fan itself, all as one package to the back of the radiator, get all of our cooling hoses hooked up, and we should be good. But until then, I'm at a standstill on the radiator. But I want to get the video out for you guys to let you know what's going on with it anyways. If in fact we need to replace the radiator, we have two options. I have a radiator upstairs that we took out of Michael's car that is still in perfect working order. It's just ugly. It's dirty. It's taken a few hits to the front of it with debris. But honestly, it doesn't look much worse than the one that's on Jim's car now. Jim's radiator has an awful lot of debris that's hit it, even though it's much shinier. It looks much newer. So we can do that, or we can order a brand new one from Factory 5, in which case we'll have to deal with that lower mount for the Breeze cooling tube or cooling hose, and probably have to modify our attack angle on that thing so that it goes in there and it does what it needs to do and all that stuff. But I don't think that's going to be a huge issue. So we'll see what happens in the next couple of days with the radiator. But I did, while I was under the hood, work on a couple of other things. One of those things was bleeding the brakes. And so I took my pressurized bleeder tank and I put that on a modified Willwood cap that I harvested from another Willwood reservoir that I had upstairs. And I pressurized the tank to about 10 pounds. And when I did, right as I was creeping up on 10 pounds, the reservoir blew off the mounting base. The band clamp that goes around to hold the reservoir onto the base where the O-ring is was never tightened. And I should know by now that when I'm working on this car to always check things to make sure they're tight. And I didn't. And so I had a huge mess on the floor to pick up. Luckily, it didn't get on the paint on the car or anything. It just blew straight down. So it went on the headers. The headers are ceramic coated. It's not going to hurt those. But I just had a mess in the shop to clean up. But got that squared away, repressurized it to about 10 pounds. Motive, the company that makes the pressurized tanks, they tell you to pressurize it between 10 and 15 pounds. And I got all four corners bled, and now the pedal is right at the top. And we got quite a bit of air out. I actually got more air out of the front, which I have not touched, than I did out of the back, where we replaced that whole section of line, which was surprising. So the brakes are bled. Once we get this thing mobile again, where we can drive it around under its own power, we'll bed the brakes and everything should be fine. The next thing I attacked was getting the clutch cable finished on both sides. I had drilled a hole through the bottom engine mount so that we had a straighter shot at hitting the pickup on the bell housing for the clutch cable, and I just kind of left the cable in there. Now I've got it into the quadrant. I don't have it adjusted all the way up, but it's still working really well. We've got nice smooth pull now. It's still really close to the headers, but it's in a lot better shape and a lot better spot than the old one was. And then the last thing that I did was I got the Russ Thompson's throttle pedal, and I got a new throttle cable put in. And the cable turned into a nightmare. Here's the finished cable, and you can see I've got some heat protectant on it here. And I think what I'm going to do is, once this cover goes on the front of the footbox, we'll probably put a cushion clip right here to hold the cable in place, just to keep it from flopping around. Ignore this. This is just the sensor wires for the fuel pickup that I haven't relocated yet. So those will be done here probably in the next week or so. So the cable is mounted, and while I did that, I had to reorient the I don't know, what do you call these adjusters for the stacks. They were oriented the opposite way. So the one from the passenger side bank was underneath the one for the driver's side bank, and so they were at a very severe angle and not a straight pull. And so I reoriented these so they're more of a straight pull to get a little bit of a smoother action out of the throttle. And the reason that I had to do that was because the cable that we had purchased, it's kind of like a low car lookalike from Summit Racing, and we've used these before and we've had really good luck with them. But for whatever reason, on Jim's car, it takes so much effort to move all four of those throttle blade mechanisms that every time you would go to push the accelerator down, it would just cinch the cable housing up, and it wouldn't move the cable at all. And after doing everything I could to try to make it easier to pull, it still would do the same thing. And so I went upstairs. I had another one of the factory 5 supplied throttle cables, and I put that in place with Russ's pedal, and now we have fairly smooth action. I'm not going to say it's perfect, because it's still, to me, it's still hard to push that throttle pedal, but it's way better than it was. So I don't know if these carburetors have been sitting for so long that they're just sticky, or whether they may need a rebuild. But to me, it's an awful lot of effort to to actually push the throttle pedal, and I don't know. I got it working, and it's working well, so I'm not going to really question it at this point. So that's in, and I'll give you a little peek at what we did for the pedal inside the car. And for those of you out there that have not used Russ's pedal, it is a very good alternative to either a stock pedal or the factory 5 supplied pedal. So there it is, and you can see it just mounts with 2 set screws onto that 3/4 inch tube that runs down inside the footbox. And it's infinitely adjustable, because you can mount it anywhere on that 3/4 inch tube, as long as you get a straight pull through the firewall, the front firewall, for your cable. And so we got it in and we got adjusted. It has full throttle, so at rest there's no tension on the pedal, And when you push that down and mat it to the floor, the throttle blade's open all the way up, and that's what's most important, to make sure you get full travel on your pedal so that you're getting full throttle when you need it. So that's done, and I think that's probably where I'm going to leave this one. All right, I want to thank you guys all for watching. As soon as we get the radiator back and we know it's good or it repaired or not fixable and we have to order a new one, I will get back on this and we'll get it, we'll get it all finished up. But until then, I'm just kind of in a holding pattern on the radiator. So we'll see you guys all next time. If you're enjoying the content, please do the like, the share, the subscribe, all that good stuff. Comment if you like. We'll see you next time. Have a great day.